Crucify him. Crucify. 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 Crucify me? For what? What are you asking me to die for? Why should I have to die? That some other man is gained? Most assuredly I say to you that unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it produces much grain. Therefore, class, I ask myself and I ask you, professors, can we die to ourselves so Christ may be gained, so Christ can be seen by others? According to Bible study tools, the word death means the termination of life. And for us who are crucifying the flesh and trying to be seen, trying to show Jesus Christ high and lifted up so others can gain Christ, we take on this form of death by sacrificing ourselves in order to follow Jesus. I remember when I re-enlisted in the Marine Corps, I heard an audible voice saying, "Can I die for this country?" And I remember, long story short, I remember saying that I finally got to a point where I said, yes, I can die for this country. And it was at that point when I said that I can die for this country that I realized that my life no longer belonged to myself. And that was it. My life no longer existed as far as Wesley L. Johnson. It was Sergeant Wesley Johnson, and I was a part of the government. And so if they wanted to send me to Iraq or send me wherever I was going, I had to go. There was nothing that I can do to say no, I cannot, that I'm not going. In a specific text that we're going to look at in John 12, verses 20 through 23, we see certain Greeks coming to worship Jesus, will worship at this feast. And while they're there, they're worshiping at this feast. They see Philip and they approach Philip and they tell Philip that they want to see Jesus while they're at this feast. And they begin, and then Philip, he goes and he tells Andrew, and so now you have Philip and Andrew, and then Andrew and Philip together in turn, they go to Jesus. And once they arrive to Jesus and they inform Jesus that these certain Greeks want to see him. Okay, hold on to that they want to see him. It was at that time when Jesus answered that, he said that the hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. And it was in that word glorified that we find that word death, that Jesus was saying, I am preparing myself right now to die. And so if Jesus has to prepare himself to die, and those who say that they follow Jesus, it is up to us now to prepare ourselves to die so we can take on the same thing. So what I've come up and what I've seen is that there's a reverse order. There's a feast that these certain Greeks came to, the Passover, right? And so this tray of food that we as believers are to present to them, I call this tray of food the fruitful grain of wheat of reorder. And what that looks like is it looks like these certain Greeks, right, at the worship, came to worship at the feast, right? And they seen Philip. That's the order. One, they seen Philip and they went to Philip and said, we want to see Jesus. We want to see him. And so what happens is Philip goes to Andrew, and now you have Andrew and Philip going in turn and saying, Jesus, they want to see you. And Jesus saying no. Because at this hour, the time has come for men to be, for the Son of Man to be glorified. And what that meant to Jesus is that he must die. And in return, Philip and Andrew must die. But while they're dying, they get to go and present Jesus. And the way that they present Jesus is by seeing Jesus die and being a witness unto Jesus, okay, to these certain Greeks. So what they do is they go back and Philip and Andrew go and tell these certain Greeks. They go and show these certain Greeks that's at the feast that Jesus is now in them because they're able to die to themselves. And so that's the same thing for us, is that when we die to ourselves, we get to show Jesus in us. For we all know that scripture for the most part in 1 John 4:4 that says that, you know, he who is in us is greater than he who is in the world. And Jesus, if he's living in us and we're making him greater than he is greater than he that is in the world. So in verses 25 through 26, verses 25 through 26, it says, he who loves his life will lose it, and he who hates his life in this world will keep it for eternal life. If anyone serves me, right, let him follow me, and where I am, there my servant will be also. If anyone serves me, him my Father will honor. And so we see that death, along with this feast, along with serving Christ, that's what they're doing. They're going back to serve. They're going back to the feast of worship to serve the Greeks. They're going to serve Christ to the Greeks. I just find that so fascinating that Jesus uses in these verses 25 and 26 talks about serving and him being that grain that we're serving, and that we have the opportunity for those of us who believe in him to go and serve others, okay, to put Christ first. And that's the reason why he calls us his disciples, because we are to follow what he's done out of love unto him, to see him high and lifted up. For they came to see Jesus, and we know that song, let us see Jesus. And so it's such an awesome and beautiful thing to know that we have the opportunity to follow Jesus, to serve Jesus. So men who come to see Jesus, they see Jesus in us. So again, class, I ask you and I ask myself and I ask us together, I ask you, Professor, that can we die so others can see Jesus in us? Again, like always, I thank you all for this blessed opportunity, man. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys' videos, man. I love you all in the Lord, and I'll talk to you soon, man. God bless.